It can be confusing at times, right? Like, why did Jesus have to die? Why did he have to sacrifice himself for? Why can't he just live forever? Why did he have to be crucified? And why did he have to be resurrected? And why did he even have to be sinless? I'm sure life would be so much fun without it, right? But in order to understand this further, you must understand that we are the lost children of God, and that there is a covenant and a commandment. The difference between the two is that the covenant is the sacred agreement between man and God, the binding allegiance of God, which covers his children against the harm of the world from the enemy. And the enemy is the great deceiver, the slave owner, and the sin master. So every covenant throughout the history of the Bible is to bring back the people of God to him. Ever since Adam and Eve took the bite from the apple, we have been lost and fallen away from God. And ever since, each covenant is a step in a ladder which God tries to pull us back closer to him. And with every covenant comes a commandment. And the commandment is the rule you must abide to follow the path of God's promise. But first, you must identify the slave owner, the slave master, the ruler of this world, which keeps you locked in, and his currency is sin. And we are all slaves to sin. So he is the one we owe, and his wage is death. So Jesus is the sacrificial lamb which comes to save us from sin, but in order to do so, he must be sinless himself. He has to be a worthy sacrifice. Hence, that is why he is sinless. Which leads us to the covenant of Christ, which is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. That is the mission of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ Isokristo. Jesus, Yeshua, Yahweh saves. HaMashiach means the anointed. So he was the anointed Savior of God to save his people from the world. And God's commandment is known as the greatest commandment because he himself said that it is so. And that is to love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. And that triumphs all the previous law from the 10 commandments and all the way to the 612 different laws in Judaism that sets the precedent to reach God's grace. All of this, above all, from the 10 commandments, there is the number one rule and the greatest above all of them. And that is to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. That triumphs everything. Because in the end, love covers a multitude of sin. And what is sin? Sin is simply the things that make us fall. Fall into what? Fall into the hands of the slave owner. The sin is not for God, the sin is for us. It is the thing which takes us away from God, makes us falter, and destroys us. God doesn't want us to sin because he doesn't want to see us destroyed. And God doesn't hate the sinner, he hates the sin. So Jesus paid the price of the sin of the world from the slave master to free the children of God from the chains of death and to vindicate them from the sentence of eternal condemnation. You may ask yourself, like, I can save myself. If that is so, how many days did you live in this world and in your life that is sinless? And for every sinless day that you commit, not one sin, not a single day that you're tainted. If that is what you are judged for, and that is the amount of days, weeks, months, or years you live in heaven, and that's how you get into, how many days do you think you'll stay there? So we can't work our way up to heaven. So in order to do so, we must receive God's grace, because only Jesus is the one that can take us to heaven, because only he was the one that lived a sinless life. In other words, he is the bridge, the path, and the gate that is uncorrupted, one that has no misdirection. You may find and follow many different paths that can offer you and say they can lead you to the path of heaven. But at the end of the day, every single one of those men, people, were riddled with sin. So how can they lead you to a place of virtue when they themselves couldn't lead themselves into one? If you doubt all of these things, and if you can't commit yourself to following all the laws and you find yourself stumbling, you sin this day and then you try to do better the next, but then you sin more again the next week. We are a fallen nature and not a single one of us is good enough. I myself admit to that. If I am judged only by my sin, I ain't gonna make it. Because the enemy will come and say, like, hey, there's overwhelming evidence in this guy. You can't take him up there. That applies to you, me, and everybody, because we have all sinned. And we're all sinners. But to accept the grace of God means to allow him to take us beyond ourselves and to get more than what we deserve. Not mercy, but grace. And that's God's love, to give his only begotten Son for you, me, and everybody, so that we may have everlasting life, to free ourselves from the slave master of this world. And don't forget, Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. So follow him and fix your eyes on things above. Keep them on God and God alone. So I hope that clarifies a few things. If you have any questions down below, let's work through it together. Comment down below and let me know. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and let's grow a community together. Hope you like this video of the third eye. This is Thirdy, helping you see life in plain sight. See you in the next one. Peace.